Hello and welcome to a new episode of Talking Snooker with Phil Haig and Nick Metcalf. Once again, talking about the game we all love.
We are indeed. We're back after a pretty major event, haven't we? We've been watching the China Open and a first huge winner of the season.
Yeah, and a brilliant winner, Phil, a very familiar one, of course, Mark Selby, claiming his fourth China Open title. Brilliant effort from him, beating Noppon Shankam 10-6 in the final. 26th ranking event for him. That's level with Neil Robertson in the all-time list of ranking winners. And I said it with Judd Trump when he won in Shanghai. Same again. I just think it must be brilliant to feel like that. They don't tend to think like that because they sometimes think negatively. Oh, I've got to win again now. But I just think it sets you up so well. Even when you have a quieter month or so, you got this in the bank. I think what it says to the rivals is, oh bloody hell, Selby's already playing well. I mean, I was interested to hear him talk about the confidence because we sometimes say, from the armchair, as I know I do, about the attacking style. But he's saying it's all well and good when I'm feeling great. I'm attacking everything, going where they're going in. But when you're not feeling so good, you go into your shell a bit. He was the other way. He was so confident. I think a lot of us thought he might win it from quite a few days out, didn't we? He was sort of beating everyone heavily. And yeah, funny sort of second half of last season when at times I remember actually looking at him pre-tournament or maybe in the early days thinking, I don't really quite fancy Mark here. He's not really talking that way you want him to talk. But this time he was so upbeat throughout. And, he wasn't, you know, softening it up afterwards. He's like, no, I'm close to my best here. I played brilliantly. And he had to work a bit early in the final against Noppon, didn't he? It was a funny old moments early on. Noppon was 4-2 up when he got into his stride. And we'll have a word about Noppon as well in a while because he had a superb week and credit to him. But Selby, he's never away for long, is he?
No,
Never away for
no.
long, Phil.
Yeah, no, and it's a matter of months ago, wasn't it, really, since that purple patch that saw him win the Champion of Champions and the UK Championship and the Championship League Invitational, lest we forget. But then he did go missing for a bit, and he's had a sticky time at the World Championship in the last 2 or 3 years. But yeah, he looked absolutely sensational this week in Taiwan. He's not been one to mess about with the cues, which we were talking about with Dave on the summer special a lot. But he saw a problem. It wasn't changing for the sake of it. His cue he'd had it for so long, he'd had so much work done, and it had got too thin. He was saying, so he's got a new wand in his hand, and he seems very happy with it. The results are very good. And like you say, I think his first round match against Pang Junzhu sort of went a bit under the radar. I didn't really watch any of that. But then once he sort of saw off Kyron Wilson and Neil Robertson 6-1 apiece, then you're thinking, oh dear for everyone else at that stage, especially when we'll get to sort of the round by round, but the big names were falling around him and he just looked stronger and stronger. And yeah, the first half of the final maybe was the sort of weakest part of the tournament. Certainly the bits that I saw of him, he looked a bit turning shots down a bit. Maybe it was all part of the ploy, and if it was, then it worked very nicely because he ended up winning fairly comfortably. And yeah, it's a huge tournament, 250 grand on the rankings. He's sort of straight back in the hunt to be world number one again, which he didn't look to be before. Obviously, straight into all the big invitational events later in the season. So yeah, lovely stuff. And we can get carried away because we were talking after Shanghai. Oh, Judd, confident again. He could get on a roll, and then he goes out first round here. So you don't want to get too over the top, but yeah, his rivals will not be thrilled to see Mark Selby playing so well and winning again.
That's an understatement. Yeah, I mean the whole thing, that word multiple or consecutive, hard to win two in a row. That's why when Judd won three in a row, it was ridiculous because it's just hard to do that, even if you're a superstar. But listen, if that's not going to happen, two in three, two in four, anything's on the cards for those guys now. And yeah, I didn't see too much of that first session, I'll be honest, but everything I read about it and bits I saw, I think you're right about Mark. And he himself said he thought he was lucky to be 4-4. It's a classic thing, you know, had it just been Knock on in front, he may have had the confidence, it may have been a different story. But Selby got it back to 4-4. We'll have a word about that incident, whether did the cue ball hit the blue,
Mm.
maybe in a moment. That was part of the story in the first session, of course. But Selby did show his class in the evening, no doubt about that. Breaks of 58, 90, 89, and 53. So that was 8-4. The Noppon took the next to the 71, and then I really remember this incident because I remember thinking straight away, oh no, what have you done, Noppon? He should have won the next frame. He should have gone 8-6, but he played a sort of funny shot on the last red. It was a bit half-hearted. A red he didn't need to pot. And he ended up the worst of every world, really, where he missed the red and came off the bump of the middle pocket. And I thought, oh no, he's left. And you could tell by his face, it wasn't an absolute gimme for Mark to leave a snooker, but he thought he's probably going to get one. He left it. He
Yeah.
did a really good one where he left the object ball near other balls. Oh no. And of course, Mark won the frame. And that was sort of done and dusted then 9-5. Not on pulled one back, but Selby sealed the deal. He loves that tournament, full-timer winner. Maybe let's say about Noppon now, because
Mm.
he beat so many good players. He was brilliant. I've half forgotten the Gary Wilson one. Of course, this is the second one for him.
Mm.
And sometimes when guys say, "Oh, he's one of the nicest guys in the tour," you think of something, Sometimes it's sort of just a thing they automatically say. With Noppon, you think, "Yeah, he really is. Lovely character, such a delight." You could just see it in him. And yeah, it's a shame for him and his supporters he couldn't get that one step further because he did look good early on in that final. But yeah, he's such a nice player, isn't he? And you get the feeling, when Lazowski won and everyone in snooker was delighted. And maybe not quite that level, but it would be getting on for that, I think, not on one, that you thought the game would be so, so pleased, Phil.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, and yeah, it's good to see him back because yeah, that final in Scotland against Gary Wilson 2023, he was definitely like a coming man then. I think that's when he got to his highest ranking, sort of low 20s. And he was regularly getting semis and he looked like he was just pushing towards the top 16 then. And then it's been a bit quiet really, the odd run here and there, but he's not been to the Crucible for the last 3 years. And that
Hmm.
sort of
Yeah.
steady rise certainly stalled and he went backwards a bit, it seemed. So this has been a bit out of nowhere, really. And I didn't know he spoke early on in this run. Maybe it was after he beat either Judd or Ronnie. But he was a link up with Peter Ebdon, which I wasn't aware of. But that seems to be bearing fruit because yeah, this is the best. Oh, it's the best week of his career, isn't it? It's the biggest, most money he's won, biggest final he's got to, beat all those good players. So yeah, nice to see him mixing it with the best again. Because as I say, 3 years ago it looked like he was getting edging towards that, and we've not seen it for a while. So yeah, I don't know. I've not heard anything as to why he had a sticky time. But he's still only 34 years old. I think he only recently turned 34 as well. So a long time ahead of him in the game. And if he can beat players like he did in Taiyuan, then he's going to be very dangerous.
He really will. Now, we have had our respective little breaks away in the UK. Sort of tried to do it midweek, didn't quite happen. But of course, when you come out way, this is a 9-day tournament. I'm
Mm.
aware that quite a lot happened, and we inevitably will miss the odd thing. But to help us, maybe we'll talk about that blue now. I mean, my kind of view on it was that I'm glad they used VAR, and I think they should do that. To me, I said for a while now, I think they should almost do it automatically. I don't quite know why they don't. I have been told that thing, oh, it stops the flow. And look, it may be easy for me to sit here and without having the pressures of the broadcasters. And there is a necessity to sometimes get on with things, even in snooker, a slow moving sport. I get that. But to me, it's sort of half barking mad. But I think some of the sports that do use VAR, and this, a static sport, doesn't. Static and slow moving, I think is the way to say. Again, I mean, I saw the player, sort of Mark saying, should we have a look? I mean, to me, it should be the referee kind of, that should be the way it goes, really, rather than the player. But look, I like them checking VAR. Problem is, of course, there are people in the game that insist it was a hit. It did look like it, no doubt, from one angle. I've seen people insist it didn't. So that's the problem with it. And we know it in all sports, you can't see everything,
Mm.
So again, it, you know, it was an interesting one. No doubt about it. I like the way they can use technology, but I do understand that sometimes it can't be conclusive. So I
Yeah.
guess what I'm saying is not quite a situation where there's an easy answer in this. But I guess that's obvious. There's no easy answer, eh?
Yeah, and you got to go with the ref eventually, don't you? Like there is that angle from above where it looks quite obviously like it did, but yeah, I've seen people say it didn't. I would go with it did.
Mm.
Um, and I liked Neil Fold saying how similar thing happened when he was playing against Joe Johnson once, and Neil was playing the shot, and similar to Noppon was sure he hit it, and Joe from his chair just said if he says he hit it, he hit it. So that's lovely sportsmanship. But yeah, Mark was not doing the opposite there. He was happy to go and look, and would have accepted it. Um, it's tricky, isn't it? It's like, it reminds me sometimes in cricket when whether when someone takes a catch right close to the grass, and
Yeah,
even on the replays, you can't tell if he's got his fingers in it or
no,
not, whether it's the ground. And you can watch as many replays as you want. You never really know. And the player might think he knows, but he's not even certain himself, and you've just got to make a call at the end. Um, it's one of these moments, isn't it? I think it probably did hit it. There's certainly that angle that shows it did. And maybe if we got to that angle quicker, maybe they would have come to that conclusion. But yeah, it's not the end of the world. You've got to, and I'm also always happy to just accept what the referee says, because I think that, you know, they're in a very good position and they know what they're doing. And even if they have made a minor error, just get on with the game. It's a very long game, a final. That is
yeah.
not why that's not going to end. That's not going to change the conclusion of the match. So yeah, it's just one of those things.
Yeah, and they're in charge. I mean, that's
Yeah,
what they're the person that's been adjudicated to be in charge. The players aren't in charge. That the referee is in charge of the match, and that whether it's the referee or the umpire across a range of sports, whether the players sometimes might think the referee's got it wrong or people watching, it's the referee that has the final call. That sort of has to be the way. Otherwise, it's element of chaos would ensue, as we know. I hope you don't mind. I do quite like. I won't go through the whole top 10 actually because we need to get on with it, but. I do like the sort of general scene where they are. Ronnie O'Sullivan's got 41, Stephen Hendry 36, John Higgins 33, Judd Trump 31, Steve Davis 28, Mark Williams 27, Robertson and Selby now with 26.
mm,
So it it's marvellous numbers. I
yeah,
said I wouldn't, and I lied because just to make a point, next one Dean Wee 15, then Sean Murphy 13. So quite a big gap
yeah,
between the 8 and the 9. Those top 8. And then there's other nuances, of course, like in Steve's day, a lot of them weren't even ranking events. He'd be miles higher in reality. People always point that out to me. And I think, yeah, I know that, but we can't explain it every single time. But yeah, I do get your point. And going back, people like Ray Reardon, it's laughable where they would be. But
yeah,
anyway, yeah, very high. Phil, one of the early lines, Sean Murphy, just ludicrous. I mean,
yeah,
good luck with us with our keyboards and us with our voices trying to sum up these things sometimes. 607. I mean, it's just ridiculous. 607. You've got to have a word with you about that without reply against Matt Sell. He said he wasn't looking at stuff. He thought, I know I'm getting near it, but it's just mad. Mad. He does mad things, Sean, doesn't he?
mm,
More than most in a way, because he's such an inspirational player that
yeah.
I'm not saying I thought he'd do it, but if you had to force me to have a list of players I thought might do that record before he did it, he might be in the sort of 5-6 for sure. Eh?
Yeah, it's like it's not like it, but it's a similar vibe to the shootout maximum. There's not too many
Yeah.
people you would think would do something like that, but Sean would be on a short list of them who you might think could. And yeah, it was just unbelievable. He will get on these runs sometimes. Um, and really it's been very consistently good for a long time now. Not consistently that good, or he would have won every match he's played. But
Mm,
that was something special. Um, you know, the, you don't want to take anything away from anything that good, but the conditions in China generally are a bit easier than in the UK, but
mm.
not so much so that you could just knock in 607 points without reply. Um, and everybody who plays over in those tournaments play in the same conditions, so it's still an absolutely stunning achievement. And yeah, Matt Selt flying all the way out to Taiwan, he was there for a few days. Not to do very much in the end in that match, but no one could have done much against Sean in that form. Very, very, very good.
Indeed. We'll come other early lines. Chang'an to beat Xiao Xin Tong. That's a hell of a match. We spotted black in the decider. And a match we were all kind of teeing up, which didn't quite deliver because Neil Robertson went 5-0 up on Chan Bing Yu, but then Chan got 3 half centuries, came back, good scoring himself, bit too late. Robertson got the win. And then maybe just look through some of the last 16 stories. Well, I mean, Dave Gilbert, I mean, he's one of the players of the season so far, Phil, beating Wu Yiza 6-2, 2 centuries, 3 half centuries from Gilbert. Xiao Yulong 6, Lu Hongyu 4, Sean Murphy 6, Xiao Gudong 2. Oh, finally, Phil, I've always thought I've got a bit in common with Ronnie O'Sullivan off the table, and now we've got something totally in common on the table. He says, I'm a very poor snooker player. So am I. So am I, Ronnie. Join the club. I know how he feels. Shanander 6, Chris Wakelin 4, Mark Selby 6, Kyron Wilson 1. Another sign of Selby looking ridiculously good, really. Kyron's got this awful record against him. I didn't
Mm,
realise.
yeah,
I
I
say
think
awful, that sounds a bit mean, but I think it genuinely is awful for a player of Kyron's quality. He like
mm.
loses against him every time they play in a ranking event, I think. Robertson 6, Sedgwick 2. And then I've left the Stuart Bingham one because that's the Stuart Bingham 6, Hossein Vafai nil. And there was that incident during the match, which I mean, no fool like an old fool, Phil. I set up a TikTok account, ludicrous at my age. No excuse for it, really. But on there, I was saying that I thought it was a bit of a funny shot for Hossein to play. I mean, I thought that I can see why Stuart wasn't very happy about that. I looked at different angles. I thought, oh, some of the players play that incredible high risk shot and pull it off with the off the bump. It didn't look like one of those to me. And I did think it was an element of spirit of the game because if players started going around playing shots like that, when you think, well, was that not deliberate? I mean, you didn't like you just went in to try and get an advantage and Lee Stewart with a nothing shot next to me. Um, but listen, that those sort of things happen. You may well have a view on that. And then also very poor snooker player from Ronnie. Welcome to the club.
No, absolutely. I'm in that club too. I mean, his version of poor is not the same as ours, I would suggest. But yeah, yeah, I mean, he's been saying this for a long time, isn't he? Even when 3 seasons ago, is it now, when he was winning numerous events, and he was saying then, "I'm not playing well," and often he didn't look at his best, but he was still winning, and now he doesn't look at his best and he's not winning. Um, and yeah, I mean, he's still in there, obviously.
Yeah,
And his poor is still better than most's best. Um, but yeah, it's sort of coming out less and less at the minute. But would I be surprised if he went and won in Wuhan next week? No.
no,
But if he doesn't win again this season, would I be surprised? Also, no, really. I think that's where he is at the minute. And yeah, I guess, the more he loses, the less the more the aura decreases, and he's had more aura than anyone else in the game, I think. Well, maybe like Steve Davis in the '80s would challenge that, or something like Hendry at his peak.
yeah,
So he's starting from a very strong aura, but it is weakening as we go on. But yeah, only lost 6-4 to the runner-up, so it wasn't disastrous. But yeah, by his standards, it hasn't been good for a while. Um, and yeah, I mean, it's interesting, that the fire shot, isn't it? Like, it's not against the rules. But yeah, I think a lot of people would say it was against the spirit of the game. Um, but then sort of, I did think Stewart's reaction was a bit over the top, really, considering the point of the game. Was he 4-0 up or 5-0 up?
I
And
think
he
he
was
was well
60 odd
ahead.
point,
Yeah.
60 odd points out in that frame as well. But maybe that shouldn't make any difference. Maybe if
Well, he would say that. He would say
Yeah,
that
maybe
the
the spirit of
score
the
doesn't
game is the
matter.
same. Yeah, same at 0-0 in the first frame. Um, but it's the rules. The rules. What can you do? They're not going to change the rules, and they not really rare, but reasonably unusual situations like that. Um,
Yeah.
don't know, just an interesting talking point, isn't it? I don't think it's like unanimous. You shouldn't be doing that. Some people would say that was the fine shot to play, and again, it's not against the rules, so nothing's going to be done. Um, yeah, it was interesting to see how annoyed Stuart was about that, and I think a lot of people would agree with him.
Yeah, I mean, I was firmly in that camp. Well, as soon as I saw it, I thought that's just a funny shot. I'd say one of my new TikTok viewers, Phil, there aren't many of them, did say um, Mark Allen played a deliberate shot, and he did
Mm.
in very different circumstances. And I thought maybe we probably should have made more of Mark doing that, but I think it came on that such weird frame. We just wanted to, everyone wanted that story to move on. That was that crazy frame, wasn't it? He did.
Mm.
He just played that shot because he didn't want the re-rack. He wanted to get on with it. And that's that. We can never, of course, there's always plausible deniability, oh no, I wasn't playing that. But when it kind of looks like that and doesn't seem to be an angle, I don't know. I mean, Stuart, do you see Stuart's video he put up when he was
Yeah,
doing the
yeah.
safety shots? One of them was that, and he just says, "Yeah, I mean, I think it's purely spirit of the game. Yeah,
Mm.
the rules don't come to it. I don't think Stuart was arguing about a rule thing. Thing is, Stuart didn't. And again, I don't really blame him in a sense that when you're a bit het up, you don't always get your words. He didn't really
Mm.
explain it very well. I didn't feel the
Mm.
situation. He didn't quite sort of say what he wanted to say. I didn't think, but anyway, he asked later on the video, and yeah, I thought, I thought it was the spirit of the game situation really,
Mm.
because you know, I don't know really. If me or you played that shot against each other in the Mio, I mean,
You
I'd
are,
have
I
been,
would say you are giving away points, like
and we're
50 in
rubbish.
full. But
We're rubbish. So
it's not like where the player needs snookers and you're trying to get out of a snooker and you don't want to leave a free ball, so you don't really have a very good attempt at even hitting it. Um, that's against the spirit of the game where, and you're not, I mean, you're giving away points then as well. Actually,
yeah,
look
but
at that.
4 points means nothing because Stewart had a nothing shot next.
Yeah, but
He'd effectively left it safe. I'll say.
yeah, but then he could make the same play, can't he?
Yeah, he could do that. That's true. He could make the same play, but that's not much of an advantage for Stewart
No,
to
no,
gain, isn't it? Stewart feels like he should gain a massive advantage. I'm saying
mm,
in a pile of trouble here. If he had played the shot he should have played, I think, which is trying to come out of the snooker a different way, a more conventional attempt, then you sort of he may not have left Stewart in it. He may have played a marvelous shot, but Stewart's entitled to feel he has a chance from there, and he feels he's
yeah,
got no chance with the next shot from what I just thought was a funny sort of from the angle he played it, he always knew it was going to go in. But listen, why don't we throw it open to our listeners, Phil,
yeah,
talking snooker at
sure.
yahoo.com, see what they've got to say. But have you got any more to say from that round? I mean, what's Dave? I mean, Dave Gilbert didn't go all the way. Maybe we'll say he did lose to Zhao Yilong, didn't he, in the quarterfinals? Zhao won the last two frames there, and Noppon beat Sean Murphy at that stage 6-4. But then Selby, maybe that's the line, just the scoring of the man's. I won't go through them now. Where he had time, he beat Neil Robertson 6-1 with loads of great breaks, let's say that. And then Stuart Bingham at 6 under three. Good win there from Stuart. And yeah, Zhang got that back to 4-3 actually. That was 4-1, but then Bingham won two frames for victory. So let's go to you again at that stage. Selby just steamrolling everybody, including some of the best players in the game, which is kind of crazy. But yeah, David may have felt he won that. He's got a new look about him, hasn't he? In terms of he's treating the game a bit more seriously. I think
Mm.
he'd say that. He's treating practice seriously. He's a dangerous beast, isn't he? If he's with his incredible natural talent, his natural abilities, beautiful way he plays the game, with his head screwed on, his rivals may be in trouble.
Yeah, definitely. And it's sort of it makes the times when he's not like that so frustrating because when he's sort of gotten loads and loads of wins this season, he hammered Ding, beat the world champion, and it's all just because he said he's been practicing. It's like, why aren't you practicing all the time then? You would say if you're a David Gilbert fan. And he does that when he turns up at the world championship and he very regularly comes through the qualifying. When you haven't seen him much over the season, he said, "Oh, I put in some practice at the World Championship," and then he's good, obviously, because he's brilliant. So yeah, took a couple of good wins, and then not sure what happened. He sort of tailed off a bit because he went 3-0 up against Joey Long in the
Mm.
quarters, and ended up losing 6-5. So he'll go away disappointed, obviously, because after beating Ding and Wu, he would have really fancied his chances. He was obviously be very confident. He's won a whole lot of matches already this season, and for 3-0 up, that's a great chance. But an encouraging week, and he get into the final of the Championship League. He's going to do all his qualifiers, good money in the quarterfinals there. So he's got one foot in the Grand Prix already, and he's got a lot of games to come. So yeah, he has been looking very good, and hopefully, for his sakes, he'll keep up that practice regime that's been clearly working wonders.
I'm sure his fans will be saying amen to that. He's got plenty of fans, Dave Gilbert. Whenever I sort of make comments on Dave, people do like seeing that man do well, and I can see why. He's a joy to watch when he's on song. Semi-finals, Noppon Sankam 6, Zhao Yulong 5, Noppon 5-3 up. Uh, then Zhao came back with two good breaks, 1-3-4 for victory for Noppon. What a way to finish. And Mark Selby 6, Stuart Bingham 2. That was 2-2 at the interval. Selby showed his class. Rushed to the line, helped by breaks of 102 and 72. As we say there, Mark Selby, the winner, 10-8, 10-6 in the end. It was, sorry, against Noppon Sankam in the final. And what did you make of it overall? Obviously, from a distance, I feel there's no slot like it had. It had an amazing slot before. I don't think it's as good a slot, frankly, but I still think it seemed very good. And putting my travel hat on, they're not going to show you the bad parts. I'm not as foolish as I look, but I thought Taiwan looked lovely, didn't
Mm.
you? The
Yeah,
bits they're in, I thought I'm actually going there to have a look. All the players using words like beautiful and delightful. Seem to be, you know, have a bit of the old prestige back. And I've told about the roll call of winners before. It's Selby again. It's a remarkable roll call. Some tournaments have this. I think it's probably because of the prestige in a way. It's all linked together, but great roll call of winners. And yeah, I say one day we've got to toss up all the different cities that have hosted events in China. There must be loads, but yeah, Taiwan. It seems to be a place that went down very well, Phil.
yeah, very good reviews of everything I saw and heard. Looked very good. I thought all the sort of the day or two beforehand, all the opening ceremony stuff
Oh
was
yeah,
great. Looked like they put on a real show. And it's really incomparable to pretty much all the tournaments over here, the sort of the effort they put into things like that. The last couple of years we've had the green carpet at the Crucible, but in terms of opening ceremonies or anything like that, that's about it really over here, isn't it?
yeah,
Whereas
yeah.
they all have impressive ones over there, and this was no different. Certainly after Mark lifted the trophy or before there's a big closing on it, a whole lot of dignitaries. We saw Mike Ganley pick up the high break prize again, but not just the check. He got a trophy. Then someone came out and gave him a bunch of flowers. Then the check. He posed for a photo with all three, which
I
cracks
didn't
me up
see the
every time.
photo. I didn't see the photo this time. I might have to dig that
With
out.
Michael Holt's 147 in the qualifiers so long ago. But
Ah,
yeah, no, yeah, very good. I do think I spoke about this before on the summer special. Just went through the tournament. I still think they do struggle to differentiate themselves between which are the bigger or smaller China events, probably because they're all quite big. But this is meant to be the biggest. And I suppose if you're just watching as a punter from over here, it's not super clear that that's the case. But that's from watching the other side of the world, I guess. But yeah, no, it all went
yeah.
well. The promoter, I read a piece from him. He sounded very happy, and they'll be back next year, and I'm sure it'll be even better. So yeah, no, great to have it
Mm.
back on the calendar. Uh, the players will be frustrated that it hasn't replaced the money like for like from Saudi, but as a tournament, um, outside of the cash, it's got to be an improvement on what it replaced sort of on the calendar.
Yeah, but that's sounding like a broken record. I say again, your point is quite a good one about, I think particularly prevalent more than ever about differentiation. I thought its slot gave it a bit of gravitas
Yeah.
because it was before the World Championship, and you need something big there. The World Championship is such a towering tournament. You know, we need something like now it's Manchester. That's massive in its own right. You need that because and China had that element to it. So again, I don't think it's going to, for me, it hasn't quite recaptured where it was. I mean, one addition, that's a bit unfair, but I can't see it ever quite having quite that high level status. But listen, really enjoyable tournament. Congratulations to everyone that put it on. We've got to say that. And well done to Mark Selby. He is the champion. And I didn't quite see exactly when we started. We must not be that far from half an hour. Is that right? I think so.
Okay.
I think so, Colonel. So let's maybe have a name check, shall we? Unless you've got any more to say about China, shall we move on on the Asian swing?
No, no, all good. Yeah, yeah. I think the only person I haven't really mentioned is Joey Long, which is another semi-final. And I feel the breakthrough is everyone's just waiting for the proper breakthrough from Joey Long. And it's so often so close. And that's another big
Yeah.
semi-final, which you would have fancied against Noppon, obviously excellent player, but you're going to get someone in a ranking semi-final. You'd take the world number 45 or whatever he was then. It's just another missed opportunity for him. And it's just you don't want to sort of have a go at someone after losing a decider in a big ranking semi final, but it's just always just slightly bubbling under, and you know, I still expected. He's only 28 still. He's still expected to make that breakthrough, but
Yeah.
you got to do it at some stage. You can't just expect forever, and that's just another opportunity just slipped through his fingers again there.
You're a great one for knowing ages. You're right. He's got so much of his snooker life ahead, isn't he? Yeah, at 28. But you're right. He'll want to just make that breakthrough to the next level sooner rather than later. You are listening to Talking Snooker here, folks. You're very welcome. It's Phil Haig and Nick Metcalf with you here. And we'll be back in a couple of moments' time to talk about the Wuhan Open. Hello, everybody. It's Talking Snooker here. Now, Phil, I still have the same problem. No word of a lie. I'm having backups from other people. When I try and type the Wuhan Open into my phone, it tries to change it to the Wigan Open. Now, I am saying that the trains, the rattlers, are now so bad in this country that I think it might be a possibility that I would make it quicker to the Wuhan Open than the Wigan Open from London. And that's an absurd bit of flippancy from me. Over to you. What are you looking forward to about this next tournament in China? This Asian swing we're enjoying.
Yeah, the third leg. Well, mainly to see if Zhao Guidong can complete a remarkable hat trick.
Yeah,
Back-to-back winner there. He's only two ranking titles, um, big ones as well. As I said, it's sometimes it's hard to know which are the biggest or slightly small, but they're all big over in China. And this is what 175 grand the winner, so that is huge. It's the reason he's in the top 16 winning those two titles. So going for the hat trick. He's got Wang Jingbo, who's an impressive youngster on. New on the tour, but he'd be favourite to win that, and we'll see how it goes. But yeah, it's all the big names still. They've all been
yeah.
out there all this time. We're only missing Mark Allen, who withdrew from China and Wuhan. Uh, Otherwise, they're all there. So yeah, we're going to be treated to a lot of good matches. We've had some qualifiers, slightly wonky draw. It's not nice and formatted like the China Open was in terms of being the same as the World Championship. There's some players already in the last 32. We've got some qualifiers that had been held over into the round before that. So it's slightly wonky when we get there, but not too bad. We'll get read around it pretty quick. But I suppose the interesting thing that I noticed about the qualifiers we've already had for this is there were three qualifiers in the semis of the China Open, and all three of those guys are already out of this one.
Mm.
Stuart Bingham, Zhou Yulong, and Noppon Sankam all lost in their qualifiers the Mattioli for this one. So, it shows how tough the standard is outside of, well, throughout the whole thing. But, these guys that are clearly in good form early in the season can still get beat in Leicester by other potential qualifiers.
It's a great line you said to me off air. It's a brilliant one. It just shows the varying natures of well form, I guess, and you got to strike. That's the thing. When you're on song, if it's a period of 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, that's when you got to really. And that's sometimes when you see players and they haven't taken advantage of those periods. That's when the frustration really can kick in. Judd Trump's got Florian Nuzlo, I noticed. That's on Sunday lunchtime. They met at the World Open earlier this year. Actually, Trump had a thumping win there 5-1. It obviously starts big favourite. Ronnie O'Sullivan, we're seeing him quite a bit, aren't we? You
Mhm.
know, you've got Ashley Carty. That's the very early hours of Monday morning. That's on the old Open University slot, Phil. That's so early. If you're a night owl, that's more like late Sunday night, really. Loads of star players in action Monday morning, including the new China Open champion Mark Selby. He's got former ranking event winner Fan Zhengxi, and world champion Wu Yiza's got our team Jijin. So yeah, as you say, all the big stars in action, and it's been there is. It's easy to say again. I won't have to organise the calendar, will I? But I think it has been something quite nice about this run. It's given it a bit of, I want to say, gravitas. I think it has actually this sort of swing. 1 to 1 with a week off. So nice time to digest. Good for podcasts. A
Yeah.
nice time, nice time to look forward to. And yeah, that Xiao Guodong. There's a list somewhere. I didn't dig it out for this time, but maybe should do soon about the players that have won their first two ranking events at the same event.
Mm.
It's quite. I think it might be John Power, but that might not be the case. I might be thinking about something else. But
Gary Wilson
there's
did it in Scotland, didn't he, recently? That was one.
Gary Wilson. Uh, yes. Was it Scotland, Wales for him and not Scotland,
Mm.
Wales, Scotland? Oh, right. Yes, you're right.
Yeah.
Gary was in it recently. Yeah. That's interesting, isn't it? They must
Yeah.
like a place so much, that feel of it. And just going back there with those good feelings, because of course, a lot of times champions can go back and the other thing can happen. I mean, because I think Gary had that thing. Was it him that went in Wales? He was out in like the first hour of the
Yeah.
tournament or something. That was quite
Mm.
bad. Another thing. Sometimes they can be, they can get a bad draw, go out early. It's happened in other stuff. I know it happened at Wimbledon over the years, different things. But sometimes you go back, you get all those feelings. You think, I've actually won here. That must be. sometimes make you feel 10 foot tall. And that's obviously what's happened in this case, and quite, if it hat trick will be outrageous. It really will. First three ranking events, we'll see. But yeah, looking forward to it, Phil. So yeah, Wuhan Open underway and yeah, all the big stars. So I think it's just another nice tournament, isn't it? Then of course it's the swing coming back here. So as I say, I want to replicate it this year. No, that there'll be a bit of a what's the word? When you look back, there'll be a sort of refresher. Has it all worked out? I think for
Mm.
me, it's sort of a bit of a thumbs up.
Seems to be so far. Yeah, enjoyed it. Be interesting for the guys who, we were saying before, with the tier system, the top 16 have got more protection than ever, and they'd really struggled to not get in the Grand Prix for one. But it's early pressure on the guys who lost their first game in China Open, because if you lost first round here as well, then you've got some catching up to do early on. People like Ding Junhui, Barry Hawkins, he went out early. And Barry's one of those players I mentioned that we'll see what those guys think if because he's been in China for sort of over 3 weeks, best part of the month, and he's won one game in that time. So we'll see how those guys feel after this
Yeah.
one, how they find it been the whole time. But yeah, certainly it's been great so far. The only other line I noticed on that was Robbie Williams has withdrawn, which gave Mark Williams a bye to the next stage. So he actually fitted into that category of he went out in his first round in China Open, but he's been taking that pressure off by getting a bye. So therefore, some ranking points in this one guaranteed.
Hmm.
Yeah, no, plenty to look forward to. Yeah, bring it on. Starting Sunday, finishing Saturday. So remember that. Watching over.
Yes. If you don't tune in for the final on the Sunday, you won't see it.
Yeah.
That's the advice. Brilliant. Enjoy the Wuhan Open, everybody. And yeah, that's the next stop on the calendar, then, isn't it, Phil? In the early days, the early month or two, really, of this 26-27 campaign, you still feel campaigns you don't quite have the vibe of a whole campaign yet. It's too sort of early for that, but interesting pointers for sure. And obviously, in terms of Trump and Selby, two incredible winners, two redoubtable winners of the last two big tournaments. Here's a news line for you before we move on to a piece of correspondence. This is copy from the BBC. Former world snooker champion Graham Dott has gone on trial at the High Court in Glasgow over child sex abuse charges. Dott, 49, is accused of lewd and libidinous behaviour towards two youngsters, a girl and a boy, between 1993 and 2010. The alleged incidents are said to have occurred on quotes unquote various occasions and involved addresses in Glasgow's East End and South Lanarkshire, as well as in a car. Dott, who won the world title in 2006, has denied the charges against him. Phil, we have a piece of correspondence here from Gareth Williams. I'm going to have to get you to answer it first, otherwise it'd be far too much of my voice. It's an interesting one, isn't it? It really
Yeah,
is. It's hi, Nick and Phil. Just wanted to say how much I enjoyed the joint summer episode between you guys and Dave Hendon. We should say, shouldn't we put our record on thanks to Dave for
absolutely.
being
Yeah.
so illuminating on here as ever. And Gareth said another fantastic marathon as always. As after listening, I felt compelled to write in after the discussion about the state of sports journalism and where the next generation of snooker journalists comes from. It resonated with me because I spent several years trying to break into snooker media myself. At university, I focused heavily on snooker, writing pieces, producing videos, and trying to build the experience that might eventually lead to a job. After graduating, I applied for numerous media roles, including jobs within snooker, but never quite managed to get that break, despite often feeling I had the skills being asked for. I was fortunate enough to do work experience in Sheffield during the 2022 World Championship, which I absolutely loved and will always be grateful for. But I also had to fund the accommodation and other costs of spending the week there myself. It was worth doing once, but there are only so many times somebody can spend their own money working for free in the hope that eventually it leads somewhere. Eventually, life moves on. I now have a reasonably well-paid and secure public sector job that I enjoy. Once you reach that point, it becomes much harder to justify giving up significant amounts of spare time or potentially income chasing something that may never become financially viable. That was why Dave's point, if you can't make a living from it, why would you consider to pursue it, really struck me. I suspect some potential future snooker journalists simply fall through the net. They don't necessarily stop loving the sport or lack the ability. They find a career elsewhere and can no longer afford to keep chasing the opportunity. It can also sometimes feel from the outside that opportunities naturally go to people who are already known within the industry. I understand why organisations use people they know and trust, but that can make the first proper break particularly difficult to get. I was interested in the AI discussion too. Obviously, AI cannot replace someone being at an event, developing sources, or asking difficult questions. But I do wonder what it means for some of the more routine and entry level writing work. If organisations can increasingly automate parts of that process, some of the jobs through which people traditionally gain experience may become even fewer. I was also a little bit sceptical about the suggestion of WST taking a journalist to China to cover the events. I understand the argument that it would generate more coverage, but I wonder how genuinely independent that journalism could be if the promoter is choosing the journalist and funding the trip. They are hardly going to pay to take somebody halfway around the world, hoping they uncover stories which reflect badly on the event. That feels different to an independent outlet being able to send its own reporter. Nick's other point about horse racing also was bang on. I noticed how little coverage there seemed to be around the King George at Ascot in July, and more generally, BBC racing coverage seems to have reduced. It reinforced the point that this clearly isn't solely a snooker problem. Specialist sports coverage generally seems increasingly squeezed. I appreciate this is quite a pessimistic perspective, and I'm sure others will have very different experiences. I certainly don't regret trying and particularly value the opportunity I have in Sheffield and had back then. I just wanted to offer the perspective of somebody who genuinely tried to pursue that route before eventually finding themselves building a career elsewhere. Really enjoyed the discussion between you all, and as always, keep up the fantastic work. All the best, Gareth. P.S. I sent this into Dave's Snooker Scene podcast as well, so may have some overlapping correspondence. Well, I mean, we're always grateful for our correspondence, Phil. This has thrown up a whole number of topics. I see you've been joined there by. I did actually genuinely see Animal Magic on the TV listings page the other day. I really did. I think it was 1980. Which one's that now?
This is Abdul. Yeah, we only got back from holiday today, so the animals are very glad to see us back.
They
So
missed you.
yeah,
Give our YouTube. Oh, he is nice. Nice.
here he is. Here he is.
Hello, hello, Colonel. Yeah, you're a star now. I say you're a star. I think we had about 85 views for our last one. So it's all relative.
Yeah.
Over to you, Phil, for the first say on this.
Yeah, well, no, Gareth, spot on. The Yeah, we were talking about how I guess a lot of snooker journalists that are around now sort of push for it because they're fans. But just being a fan of a sport doesn't mean you can just necessarily create a role or find a role in the industry. We spoke about how it's a shrinking industry, and this is not just a snooker problem. Many sports and just the wider journalism, it's tough to break in, and a lot of people will have had the same experience of Gareth. They try and they are good enough. It's just you never quite find the avenue in. And I think I've said this a load of times on here, but I got in doing something completely different to what I'm doing now, something I had no intention of doing long term, but it just gets you through the door. And then you sort of weasel your way into something you'd rather do. And yeah, that's the way I did it. But yeah, I completely understand why people are sort of, I did as much as work for free as possible while I was at uni because you can stomach it then. But once you're out there and you've got to earn a living, you can't turn it for work experience for forever. You've got to be earning money, and people give up, and that's a real shame because there's plenty of talented people out there who could do the job, who don't ever find their way in. So yeah, it's tricky. There's nowhere that I've ever seen in any media that is advertising for a snooker reporter. I've never seen that job
No,
advertised.
no.
So you've really got to be able to do or be willing to do plenty of other stuff and try and squeeze as much snooker in as and when you can. Um, but yeah, in terms of sort of snooker media roles, they don't really exist in the wider media,
Mhm.
really specific. So you've got to be able. I think if there's anyone listening who wants advice on this kind of thing, go in as general as you can, or be don't go in trying to become a snooker reporter. No, that's wrong actually. Uh, Fine to want to become one, but accept that you should be ready to do all sorts of other stuff as well as snooker, and then just try and squeeze that in when you can. Yeah, interesting point. I get what you're saying about if WSC took journalists there, but I think that's just the deal that a promoter would make because no journalist would go there and say, "Well, I'll write what you want me to say, or I won't, or I will ignore stuff." I think they just accept that you'll do a load of coverage, and if there's the odd bad one, then it is. Dave's spoken that before about him, and Phil Yates used to go over, and there was never any say on what they could or couldn't cover. Certainly, if I was there doing that, you know, you wouldn't agree to it if they said you could only cover certain things. So yeah, I think they just know that's the deal they make if they do something like that. Um, but yeah, no, I think that was everything I had to say. But yeah, it was a shame for Gareth. Gareth's been on here. I was at that World Championship when he worked there. As I say, he'll be one of plenty of people who more than good enough to work in the industry. It's just a very difficult one to crack into.
Yeah, loads of wise words there. Well, maybe going backwards then, because you just mentioned that. Yeah, it's a good point about the WST and a reporter. I get the point. I get the point. Yeah, I mean, I tend to agree that you'd hope that, and just hope there'd be the expectation that both sides would understand the situation, i.e., WST would understand, all the promoter of the tournament, for example, the overall gain of such a move. You know, there will be the odd story with the critical angle. The chances are wouldn't be the majority of the stories, but that's the kind of chance you take. And you'd hope any reporter, and I think I'd trust certainly in the snooker world and most other worlds, I would hope that the reporters would under. There have been times in the industry when that hasn't been the case. I've known throughout my long time in the industry, but thankfully they are few and far between. It becomes PR then actually. I
Yeah.
don't think I've that's been in snooker, I should add, but in other things I've seen that, and it's like that's a bit close to it. They they pay for sort of bit of PR coverage there, really. But that is rare. That is rare over a long career, I should say. But yeah, no, it's interesting. AI. I mean, oof, I mean, it's a concern in all our lives, isn't it? I mean, some of this stuff. I was out with a few of my neighbours. They understand it all far better than me. I'm a bit of a behind the unusual for me being behind the curve in technology. Phil, who'd have thought it? Still getting used to WWW. Never mind the bloody. But I tell you what, I did do one thing. I had a look. You're like this, I'm sure. A line from the Reuters Institute for the Study of Journalism recently. Apparently, sports journalists at the moment are tending to use AI less than their colleagues on other desks.
Mm.
Brilliant news. Because we value, and we value being there, having our say. I mean, it was a conversation that came up in the family recently. I was a little bit strident. I was like, wait a sec, our views come from the heart. When I write a column, I don't want, someone else to be sort of helping me write it. I want to say what I think from my heart, from the start to the end. I don't want anyone else sort of interrupting it. So, yeah, let's hope that's a trend that recent study. Let's hope that that's something that continues. I've got to sort of say this without sort of sounding pious. I mean, I would say money's never been my number one driver, and I've kind of always been like that, really. And I've paid my way loads of times, more than I've had hot dinners, basically. And even to this recent World Cup, I paid my way there. But what I would say is that I'm a bit of an addict, so I do have a sort of need to sort of try and see as much as I can in this sort of short life. But I've always had a bit of a, it's not quite the same. I've always had a security. So it's a bit, I do have I have generally always had a fallback job. And I was thinking back through my career, BBC Radio many moons ago, or Teletext when I was there, Metro when I first met you, Phil, and the over the decade that I was there, more than a decade, TNT Sports in the last couple of years. So there is a bit of a difference between me being able to pay my way, as I often do, and having the fallback than someone like Gareth who's trying to break through, especially in these nightmare financial times. That is a difference. I think it is a shame. There's not sometimes. enough room and space on the snooker media scene for young talent. I mean, it's not just you, Gareth. I've known other people that fit in that category. As Phil rightly said, you were on here. I remember it very well when you came on for that summer episode. You were brilliant. I've always enjoyed our correspondence. I've always enjoyed our chats on social media. I know you have had and would have a lot to say. I mean, what I would say is that I've always felt that people are very protective of their patches, and probably in smaller sports, quotes unquote, like snooker, more so than perhaps you see in the likes of football, maybe tennis, maybe cricket. So I think it can be difficult for anybody to break in sometimes and get work and even get more work once they're in, let alone young people with no experience in the game. So I really do get what you say. It's not for me to tell you what to do, obviously, or to even hector you in any direction, but I like to think that you might do some writing, maybe if it's even, I don't mean 3 or 4 articles a week, because you've got other things to do in your own life, but even if it's the occasional piece in your own blog or your own website, or even on Twitter, you get maybe not one of the social media ones where you can pay for longer views, you know, even if it's just in your own time, when just to maybe around the World Championship, because sometimes you can just keep in. I've had things in my life where it hasn't always worked out, not just in journalism, but other forms of life, I think. But as long as I sort of do a bit, you know, the other side, it sort of satisfies me to some extent. Not to the extent I would have wanted, if you get my drift. But I mean, it's not quite the same thing. But I sort of the only other career I ever thought I could maybe do was teaching. That's the only thing. I'm not sure I could really do anything else. Nothing else has ever come to mind. I've never done teaching, but I did help out at various groups locally, particularly when I moved to the Hackney area, after school clubs and different places. I volunteered with sort of children of different ages, and that didn't I wouldn't that didn't make me a teacher, but it scratched a certain itch to help out and understand the sort of education process in a certain way, even if it is an after school way. And so that sort of was maybe not the best example. That's something that satisfied me to enough that I had a little bit of that life. So I don't know if that would be the same for you or anyone that can't quite break into journalism. But look, there are loads of brilliant voices, aren't there, Phil? And some people through choice. I don't know. Sometimes it is choice. Sometimes I don't know whether it's choice or not. They sort of do stuff on the side. You think you could do a lot more. You're really good, but
Mm,
unfortunately, it's only a certain size of sport, isn't it? I
yeah.
wish that more papers did it. It goes back to what we were saying. People like Rob Morland, that we know, they'll say, Rob says, my hits are going through the roof. You think, well, why aren't more papers understanding this? I got work later on the World Championship because some editors couldn't believe for a few days they were doing more than football. Okay, maybe nothing's like Sheffield. I get that, but I don't know. It's a bit of a bashing your head against the brick wall thing, isn't it? We know that, and sometimes it's just down to whether editors like the sport. And that sounds mad to an outsider. It sounded mad to me when I was first in journalism, but it's true. If you get a sports editor that likes snooker, he'll cover snooker, or he or
Mm,
she. If they don't, chances are they won't quite as much. I know that sounds
mhm.
a bit sort of horrible, maybe, or especially to someone that's not in the business, but it's kind of it's like that. But see you agreeing. I'm not wrong, am I?
No, yeah, of course. I was like you. I think I was given a chance because they just trusted me to have a good go at it. But yeah, like I would say that, we're talking about sort of traditional forms of media now, and the way you were saying there, do some writing as and when you can because you enjoy it. That's the main thing, and also that's a nice, when you're in the job, you're covering loads of stuff that is sort of just run of the mill. You just write in for because you have to write some stuff. If you just do the odd blog or your own thing, then you can write for the love of it and cover whatever you want to cover. And then, there's plenty of other ways into the media nowadays that aren't just based on sports editors. Do social media stuff, do whatever you want, but do it because you enjoy it, and then see where it leads to. If you can't do it to sort of pursue a career at the minute, do some stuff in your spare time because you love the sport and you love writing, and just treat it as a hobby and see where it goes. I would say, but yeah, don't give up on it entirely. I would say because as there aren't loads of people with the talent and the drive to do it. Even if you had to take a sidestep somewhere, you may come back to it at some point.
I would say so, but listen, thanks a lot, Gareth. He could do worse than being a producer for us. He's given us about 15 minutes there. Brilliant stuff. Thanks very much indeed. And Phil, I don't know if we've got much more to do, really. Any other business might take us round to about the hour mark. That's okay. I've spoken with the author Chris Shaw on Radio Snooker just to say about his snooker book to the max. That's available to listen to now. And I think Chris has some valuable insights because he's not someone that's gone to snooker forever or religiously year on year, but because he had that intense experience of a year, I think he's got some valuable insights about what it's like as a fan, what certain tournaments offer, maybe what certain tournaments don't, and just the different, vibes on it. So I like that. And I'm happy to say that I am writing for Sporting Life again for this season. Columns from me coming up. My first one will come next week ahead of the British Open. And I don't know if you've got anything special, Phil. I know you're back on the Roger Melly soon with Channel 5. That Cheltenham is coming up, isn't it? We've got the British swing, but before that, one more important part of the China swing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's hectic now. We were just saying there's been a week between these ones, but Wuhan finishes on Saturday and the British Open starts in Cheltenham on Monday. So I don't know if whoever gets the final, there might be some rejigging on the schedules. We don't want a sort of repeat of the Sean Murphy explosive interview at the Champion of Champions last season. Or do we want to repeat that? I wouldn't mind seeing that for my work, to be fair. But yeah, British Open, then the English Open starts the day after that. And then we're just into that super busy part of the season back on these shores. So yeah, plenty to look forward to. I'm looking forward to. I think I'm down in Cheltenham for 5 days this time. So my other two Channel 5 visits were just before and just after I had my second child. So I was limited, but now slightly more freed up to spend some more time there. Not been to that venue at Cheltenham before, so really looking forward to that. And what is always a great tournament. But before that, Wuhan, which will also be great.
It will, and I think you're going to enjoy Cheltenham very much because it's a beautiful part of the world. Um, I enjoyed it because of the memories of walking around and thinking, "Oh, I saw this," but it wasn't just that. Partly because it's so different, it's ludicrous. A full Cheltenham with a packed parade ring and a packed course cheering on massive races is so different from an empty race course. You don't really quite always correlate the fact you're there for that event. It's different. It's a whole different experience. I love the peace of it. I never thought I'd sit in Cheltenham and say that. I love the peace and quiet of the Cleve Hill. It was lovely autumn weather when I was there last year. So, yeah, really good. I'm sure you'll enjoy that. I think maybe we should go, should we? Why not?
Think so.
We've given them enough, haven't we?
Yeah.
All the best, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Talking Snooker at yahoo.com is the email address. And we have got a few more bits actually. We'll maybe do that next time. We are back, aren't we? Hopefully you'll join us from Cheltenham if you were to squeeze that in. So we are back in that short gap between Wuhan and Cheltenham in full review and preview mode. So all the best, everybody. See you next time, Senor.
Yeah, always a pleasure. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. And we'll speak to you very soon.
Enjoy the Wuhan Open, wherever you happen to be, and thanks for your company. And for now, this is your old friends Phil Haig and Nick Metcalf saying cheerio.